Happy Monday, everybody. Making another Red Sox video here. Monday, August 22nd, the Red Sox are 60-62 after dropping the third game last night against the Baltimore Orioles, 5-2, 5-3 actually. We'll get into that meaningless home run Xander Bogaerts hit shortly. But as of today, the Red Sox stand 6 games out of a wild card spot. That's to Seattle. They're really 7 games in the loss column behind Tampa Bay and Toronto. And given the strength of schedule and who the Red Sox are playing, if they're going to catch anybody to make the playoffs, it would be one of those two teams. So you're really 7 back if you look at losses. And, this was a week that was important to the Red Sox because you thought they had an easy 3-game set against the Pirates. And it was the start after the Pittsburgh series of American League East competition with the Baltimore Orioles. But with that, you had the New York Yankees playing the Tampa Bay Rays for 3 and the Toronto Blue Jays for 4. And yes, the Yankees have played very poorly for the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, but it was a homestand for the Yankees. So, as a Red Sox fan, I was pulling for the Yankees, hoping that they could take care of business at home, and they absolutely could not. I mean, they dropped 2 out of 3 to Tampa Bay. Should have been a sweep. I mean, the Yankees won that third game on a grand slam by Josh Donaldson, down 7-4 with 2 outs in extra innings. And then they played the Toronto Blue Jays, and they dropped 3 out of 4, winning yesterday 4-2 with Andrew Benintendi hitting a go-ahead home run. So the Yankees did not help the Red Sox at all. And listen, the Yankees it's not in their interest to help the Red Sox out, but it would be in their own interest to start, getting back to winning ways as this is a team that's been struggling again for the last 3 weeks. A lot of Yankee fans on Twitter I've been seeing they're saying this is a monumental collapse and this and that. It's like, you know what? Yeah, they played awful for a while, but, up until recently, because the Rays and Blue Jays had not played great either, so no one really made any ground or significant ground to make the American League Eastern Division really at risk. I mean, the Yankees are still 7 up as of today, and as bad as they've played, I mean, they still have a very comfortable lead. So I think Yankee fans, if they're looking towards a World Series and that's their goal, yes, I think that is something to be concerned about. I don't think the Yankees right now are showing that they are a World Series contender. But they're certainly going to make the playoffs, and I don't see how they don't win the division. I mean, I think that they have such a big lead at this stage of the season that it really puts the other teams chasing them in a really tough spot to catch them. And what did I just say, Red Sox fans? Tough to catch the Yankees at this point, and they're 7 up, and they're playing badly. But there's just not much time left. The Red Sox right now are 7 losses behind Tampa Bay and Toronto. So if you think my thoughts of the Red Sox are making the playoffs, I'm kind of giving you a little insight as to how I really feel. I just don't know if there's enough time. But let's go back to the week that was. Red Sox take the series against the Pirates. My thought in that series was it really needed to be a sweep. They win the first game 5-3. They win the second game 8-3. And the third game of the series, you have Nate Eovaldi supposed to be on the mound for the Red Sox, and he got scratched. He's having some more injury issues. I forget if it was back or an arm issue, but it doesn't matter. He didn't pitch. They used Josh Winkowski, and Winkowski's kind of been very mediocre, but the Pittsburgh Pirates suck. So I thought, well, it's a good matchup. You hope the Red Sox can put up 8 or 9 runs and take care of business in Pittsburgh, go to Baltimore, and worry about the Orioles. Winkowski didn't help. They get in a quick hole, 2-0 early, and from this very beginning, it was 4-0, then it was 6-0, and the Red Sox pretty much packed it up and said, well, we won the series, and they moved on. And at this stage, winning series is not necessarily enough because, when you play, or at least when you play bad teams, that really needed to be a sweep. So now you go to Baltimore, and to me, this was a critical series. It's like, all right, they get to Baltimore, got Cutter Crawford on the mound Friday, and Michael Wacha on the mound Saturday, and then Sunday, Nick Pivetta. So you kind of have at this point your 3 best starters available, or at least as it's been, out of the rotation. Rich Hill's given them nothing. Josh Winkowski / Nate Eovaldi. I mean, Eovaldi's been hurt, but so you really have to go to the other 3 guys as your main starters, and Cutter Crawford didn't have it. The Red Sox, they did fight in this game. They took an early lead, then gave it right up, and it was 3-2, then it was 5-2, and at one point it was like 10-4 Orioles. I turned it off. I checked my phone, and 15 minutes later, and the Red Sox put up 5, and it was 10-9. It was like, oh my gosh. And then they gave 5 up in the very next inning. So that, it was just one of those nights where the pitching cannot keep the team in the game. And, it was just bad. It was a bad loss considering that they had just lost the night before off a poor pitch game. But, that's going to happen, I guess. And, the only upside I thought was, well, the Red Sox, they put up some really good offensive games, recently. They put 5 up on the first night in Pittsburgh. They scored 8 in the second game. Now they have 10 against it on Friday night. So, maybe the offense is starting to come around. Saturday, Michael Wacha pitches a gem. The offense isn't really there, but, Kike Hernandez hits a home run, and the Red Sox, they used their main relievers in the end of the game, Schreiber and Whitlock, and the Red Sox were able to hold on and win. And then you get to last night, and, well, before we get to last night, at this stage of the season with the Red Sox, every series that they enter, in my view, is like this. You have to hope they have a blowout win, and then they have a game where maybe, they don't put up a lot of runs offensively, but they get a decent start out of their whoever starts, and then it's tight enough where you can use your best relievers, which right now, or for the most part this season, has been John Schreiber, and when they put him back in the bullpen, Garrett Whitlock. Before Whitlock was in the before he was in the bullpen, it was Tanner Houck, and now it's pretty much Schreiber, Whitlock, and even Matt Barnes has started to look pretty good. So when the Red Sox enter a series, it's kind of like, all right, you had to hope they win 10-5 one game. A tight game, you use your best relievers, you outpitch the opponent, and you squeak out a 1-run victory. And then the third game, hopefully you hit again, but if you don't and you lose, all right, you still took the series. Now, again, the Red Sox are running out of games, and they can't afford too many more losses. So winning series isn't enough, but that's pretty much the only way the Red Sox are going to win series, is because you can't use Whitlock and Schreiber every game, even if it's a 1-run game. Sometimes you got to go to other people, and it's like you're banking on Ryan Brazier to get clutch outs. You're riding the tails of Sawamura or Matt Strahm. Take your pick. Some of these relievers that come in, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have no faith in this guy to come through. But that's kind of the position the Red Sox bullpen is in. And you get to the Sunday game. People were blaming it on Alex Cora for bringing in John Schreiber and having the meltdown. First of all, Alex Cora has had no help from upper management all season long. So anybody blaming Alex Cora for where the Red Sox currently are this season, I think, is a complete joke. I think with Rob Renicky, who managed the 2020 team, where would this Red Sox team be with him managing the squad? I think that Alex Cora gets the players to play hard and really, don't get me wrong, he's not perfect. He has poor management decisions sometimes. There was a night a couple weeks ago in Kansas City where they brought Darwinson Hernandez in a tie game, and Hernandez walked a couple guys and then gave up a bomb, and it was like, why is this dude in a tight game? But again, sometimes Alex Cora's hands are tight. It's like, well, I can't bring Garrett Whitlock in every night. I just can't. I'm gonna ruin this kid. And so you get to last night, Red Sox they're down 2-1. Franchi Cordero hits a game-tying home run in the 8th inning. Couldn't believe it. Franchi Cordero's been down in the minor leagues for the last couple of weeks and comes up, pinch hits off the bench for Bobby Dahlbeck, who struck out twice. He is just Bobby Dahlbeck. On a side note, I have no faith in that dude. I just think he's not meant to play here. Neither is Franchi Cordero, but he comes up with a clutch home run to tie the game, and it's like, this would be huge. They pull this game out. You take 2 out of 3 at Pittsburgh. You take 2 out of 3 against the Orioles, and now you come home for the critical homestand, which we'll get to shortly. Bottom of the 8th rolls in. Matt Barnes, who had finished the 7th inning, comes back out, strikes out, I forget the guy's name, Stowers on Baltimore. He was hitting like a $150, sucks. Strikes him out, walks Urias, and they bring in John Schreiber, which I didn't hate. John Schreiber has not been as automatic as he was, because, again, the Red Sox have pretty much run him into the ground, given that he was really their only reliable reliever all season long. And he hits Austin Hayes, first and second, 1 out. Rougned Odor comes up, a non-competitive at bat, 4-pitch walk. And it's like, walk, hit by pitch, walk. Just as a fan, and I know that analytics these days, they don't like the ball in play. They like the 3 true outcomes and the home run, the walk, the strikeout. Again, analytically, it makes sense. These are smart people that have figured out the most ways you can control a victory, I guess, because when a ball is put in play, there's a lot of randomness, and analytics don't like randomness. They like things that they that have certain trends and information that okay, this is how it goes. This is the way it's generally going to go. When you get random balls in play, and it just throws everything off. And so, if you're an analytical guy, you probably don't mind. Well, yeah, whether they lose by walks or they lose by a couple of hits, what's the difference? And I guess that's the same thing. But to me, giving a team a victory by just putting men on base and not making them earn it, as a fan, it's always been so frustrating to me. I mean, even back to when I played Little League, I was always upset if I was playing in the field and a guy on our team wouldn't throw it over the plate. Just make the other team earn it. And if they get 3 hits and someone hits a home run, I can live with it. I'm not going to be happy about it, but it's like they did their job. You know, they got strikes thrown to them, and they did what they had to do. They got on base, and then someone drove them in. To just give a guy a walk or to hit a guy, it's like, it's just, you're giving them the game. You're giving it to them. And then with the bases loaded and 1 out, you know, your best thing you're hoping for is Schreiber's got a decent sinker. Maybe he'll get a double play. He got a ground ball, but it was a missile down the third baseline, 3-run score. Orioles go up 5-2, and then the top of the ninth, Xander Bogaerts, leadoff home run, 10th homer of the year. Xander Bogaerts. That is so him. And I like Bogaerts, guys, but it's just, I was like, of course. Yep, now you'll hit the home run. If it was 2-2 on the top of the ninth, he's 1,000% not going deep. And he came up in the first inning, man on third, and he had a line drive to third base. He hit it hard. But just, this is a guy, go back and look how he's done. I mean, he gets thrown out on Friday night. I mean, he just has had a terrible year with runners in scoring position. And again, they're down 5-2 in the ninth inning. Very hard to come back. He hits a solo shot, meaningless. Not that his statistics are going to get him a $30 million a year contract this year, because he's been very poor in big spots, and that, because he hasn't come through with runners in scoring position. His RBI count isn't high. He hasn't hit for a lot of power this year, at least with the home run ball. He's hit a lot of doubles, but not a lot of homers. So he's only at 10 homers. And again, just him going deep in that moment was like, yep, that's Xander Bogaerts. And Red Sox lose 5-3 after that. So we'll get to the end of this video here. Is the season over? A lot of people I saw on Twitter last night saying, that's it. That's their season. Now, to me, the season isn't over after last night's game. It's either it's been over and it hasn't mattered, or it's still not over. And the reason I say that is because if you've already believed it's been over, then you think they're going to get killed on this homestand, in which they get Toronto for 3, Tampa for 3, and Minnesota for 3. And if you look at all those 3 teams, they're all ahead of them in the wild card standings. Minnesota, you got to beat the Twins anyways, but the games against Toronto and Tampa Bay are critical. And so if you think the season's been over, then again, you're not even probably paying attention at this point. You're like, whatever, they're not going to win this homestand anyway, so it doesn't matter. And if you do think the Red Sox still have a chance, and the Red Sox fan in me still has faith that, maybe they can have a hot homestand, and if they do, they're not out of it. If the Red Sox go 6-3, 7-2 on this homestand and make up some ground, make a couple games up, get a little momentum, they're not out of it. But the realist in me says, I think it's over. I think that they're going to come home, and Toronto just kicked the Yankees' ass 3 out of 4, played great. I just see them mashing the ball this week at Fenway. If you guys are betting any money, betting on some sports, I would love to take the Toronto Blue Jays team total every night of this series, starting tomorrow at Fenway. I just don't think the Red Sox have enough arms to keep their offense at bay. If the Red Sox are going to win, they're going to have to outslug Toronto, and then Tampa Bay comes to town. I mean, let's face it, guys. If the Red Sox get swept by Toronto, I think they're going to lay over, and the rest of this homestand will be bad. But if the Red Sox fight against the Jays and they win 2 out of 3, and even if they lose 2 out of 3, I could still see them mustering a fight against the Rays, which I think the Red Sox have a much better chance of doing some damage against Tampa Bay than Toronto. I think this 3-game set against Toronto, I think this is going to be the hardest 3 games of the homestand. You win 2 out of 3 and you get the Rays, you got to view that Rays series as the playoffs. I mean, every series is the playoffs, but that Rays series has to be, we have to try and win every single game, and we have the best chance. They have a much better chance of sweeping Tampa Bay than they do Toronto. I would say at best they win 2 out of 3 at Toronto. At best, they're not sweeping the Jays. Tampa Bay is not an easy sweep either, but of the 2, I think they have a better chance to sweep the Rays. If they did that, then they get Minnesota, and then they go to Texas, I believe. And Texas stinks. So we'll see. We'll worry about that next week. But this is the last stand. This is the last stand. The Red Sox are, like I said, they're probably too far out of it already. But the one thing you can hang your hat on is they have a lot of divisional games coming up. They still play the Rays. I think they play the Rays 9 times, 6 of which are at home, including the last 3 games of the regular season, if it comes down to that. They play Toronto at least 6 more times. Hopefully not too much more than that. I mean, that team is just a bad matchup for the Red Sox. But again, if the Red Sox win those games, they can make up ground on who's ahead of them in the wild card race. So that's the only positive out of this, is that the Red Sox, it's not going to be easy, but at least if they do play well, they don't have to really do scoreboard watching, because they'll be gaining games on the teams that they're playing, instead of hoping other teams beat them. So it's in the Red Sox hands. They're at Fenway Park. And if there's anything Alex Cora can say to some of these guys, like Xander Bogaerts, like JD Martinez, like Kike Hernandez, some of these guys that, are going to be free agents at the end of this year. And Xander Bogaerts, just to clarify, is not necessarily a free agent. He can opt back into his contract, but I would assume he's not going to do that. So if this is the last ride that these guys have playing for the Red Sox, especially playing at Fenway Park, it's like, you know what, guys? You only got so many games left at Fenway. You might as well make the most of it, because you might not be back next year. You might not want to be back. But we're here right now. We're still, if we make some noise, we can get back into it. And, at least play hard for yourselves, enjoy these last few games at Fenway that you have. And who knows, maybe they get hot and they go on a little bit of a run and they at least make it interesting. I guess that's where I'll leave this video. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that the Red Sox are who they are. That they had a week against the Pirates and Orioles that they needed to go, I think, 4-2 at worst. They went 3-3. The third game of the series, they lose 8-2 to Pittsburgh. They have a Friday night where they score 10 runs, but they give them 15. Then they have a night last night where it's close, but, they just can't eke it out. So it's like, those are the games that, good teams win. Teams that are going to make a run win, and the Red Sox cannot pull them out. And I think that's just because they're just not that good. So I'll leave it at that, guys. We'll see what the Red Sox can do this week against Toronto and Tampa. It's their last chance. See if they make some noise or if they go into that good night. But thanks for watching, guys, and have a good week.